We are live on audio on YouTube, not yet video. Is it the other way around? The other way around? Sorry, we're on video, but not audio.
I assume they're here together. Welcome, bienvenue, Anine. I'd like to begin our meeting as we do in a good way by acknowledging with respect that we are in Robinson here on treaty territory and that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and known as Bawating. Bawating is home to Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation, and the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. I'd like to also thank our media and broadcast partners for covering tonight's meeting. With that, I'll hand it over to the clerk.
Under agenda item 2, I've got a motion by councillors Scott and Bezo-Allen resolved that the minutes of regular council meeting of August 12, 2024 be approved.
All in favor? That carries.
And under agenda item 4, declaration of pecuniary interest, councillor Bezo-Allen has declared with respect to the property declared surplus at 149 Gore Street, as she is the board president and founder of Grocer for Good. Councillor Dufour has declared with respect to the reconstruction of People's Road and East Street, as he owns property in the proposed area of work. Councillor Dufour has also declared with respect to the property declared surplus at 60 London Street, as he is employed by the District of Sault Ste. Marie Social Services Administration Board.
Any other conflicts, council? Okay, seeing none.
Under agenda item 5, I have a motion by councillors Gardy and Dufour resolved that the agenda for September 9, 2024 City Council meeting as presented be approved.
All in favor? That carries.
And that will bring us to planning. Agenda item 8.7.1, A1124Z 418 4th Line West. I have a resolution by councillors Gardy and Bezo-Allen resolved that the report of the planner dated September 9, 2024 concerning rezoning application A1124Z be received and that council approve the application as follows. Rezone a portion of 418 4th Line West, referred to as the area to be rezoned, which has approximately 64 meters of frontage along 4th Line and a depth of 78 meters from Parks and Recreation Zone to Estate Residential Zone with the following special exceptions. Reduce the required minimum lot area from 0.4 hectares to 0.37 hectares. The driveway between the edge of the road and the lot line must be paved with a hard surface such as asphalt. Development be connected to both municipal water and sewer services, and that the legal department be requested to prepare the necessary bylaw to effect the same.
Mr. Tenazzo?
Thank you, Mayor Shoemaker. The subject property is the Crimson Ridge Golf Course, and the application is to rezone a little less than an acre, a 1 acre area along the 4th Line frontage, just east of the main golf course entrance, to facilitate, again, a future severance and the construction of a single detached dwelling. As the dwelling will connect to municipal water and sewer services, there have been a number of concerns raised by neighbors primarily related to the existing sanitary force main and its capacity to accommodate this build. And attached to the report package is a preliminary servicing study prepared by Senlo Engineering that indicates at this point there are no concerns with the new build tying in. Certainly engineering comments have indicated that as a more detailed review of the system will be required as part of the severance application through the Committee of Adjustment. And the recommendation again is to approve the rezoning, and agent for the applicant, Dave Urso, as well as Jordan Williams from Senlo Engineering are here to speak to this application. Thank you.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Urso, welcome to council. If you have anything to add to Mr. Tenazzo's comments.
That's all right. Same comment, though. Your Worship the Mayor, members of council and staff. Yes, the report to council was very succinct and online for what we're planning to do. As I'm not I can't comment on the servicing, and that's why Mr. Williams is here to answer those questions if you have any questions on that side of the equation. Other than that, we're happy with the report.
Thank you, Mr. Urso. Councilor, are there any questions on this application? Is there anybody here who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anybody here who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Okay, seeing none, we can have a vote on the matter. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you, Mr. Urso. Council, we've got folks from ACOM on the line, so we will go to 8.4.1 in advance of going into the consent agenda. Yes, Madam Clerk.
I have a motion by councillors Gardy and Vezoelin. Resolved that the report of the Manager of Development and Environmental Engineering dated September 9, 2024 concerning Asset Management Plan Phase 2 non-core assets be received, and that the Asset Management Plan reports be approved. And representatives from ACOM are on the call to answer questions.
Council Acon's here to answer questions, not to give a presentation, but if there are questions, they are available to answer them. And of course, you can ask questions of staff as well if there are any. Okay, seeing none, we can have a vote on that matter. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. We'll deal with 8.4.2 at the same time.
It's just a little leggy on that. This is the vote for 8.4.1.
My count was that carried unanimously.
It does. And 8.4.2 is the Asset Management Plan Phase 3. And I have a motion by Councillor Scott and Vezoelin. Resolved that the report of the Manager of Purchasing dated September 9, 2024 concerning Asset Management Plan Phase 3 be received, and the recommendation to retain ACOM Canada at the total proposed fee of $229,000 plus HSD be approved, with additional funding of $33,301 allocated from the Asset Management Reserve, with a bylaw listed under item 12 of the agenda.
Council, questions on this? Okay, seeing none, we can have a vote on that matter. All in favor? Any opposed? And that carries.
And then that will bring us to the consent agenda.
Thank you to our ACON reps. Council matters on consent. Councillor Gardy? Your mic, Councillor Gardy. Oh, okay. Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 7.15, the purchase of property at 628 Second Line West.
Yes,
So I guess sorry, I just want to open my email. I wasn't expecting to get called on so quickly.
just before you get to your questions,
Yeah.
Councillor Caputo, perhaps that there was an addendum that came out about an hour and a half or 2 hours ago. Perhaps if legal could just give a brief overview of what changed from the previous report released last week to this morning or this afternoon. Either Mr. King or Ms. Fields or Ms. Borowitz-Sibinick. We got the whole team here.
The whole team's here. Through you, Mayor, to councillors. The report that initially was before you was for the sale purchase price of 700,000 and a closing date of the end of October 31st. Due to a number of concerns that were raised to councillors from the tenants in the building, we re-spoke to the seller this morning, and we have changed the purchase price to 705,000 from 700,000. So it increased by 5,000 to 2,500 per month to cover up the 2 extra months, which will allow additional notice to the tenants then for a closing date of now in January 27th. I think it is. Jeff can confirm, but I think it's January 27th.
Welcome to Council, Mr. King.
Be January 21st, 2025 at that point.
Thank you. Councillor Caputo, you had questions on this?
Yes, so I'll start with the question about this particular part, and maybe I'm a bit confused. The tenant is going to remain and they're going to pay rent to the seller. So why is our purchase price increasing?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Caputo. So through the negotiation process with their 2 owners or partners on this building, what they suggested is that they do hold a line of credit for that building. So with that line of credit, they are somewhat losing money in that instance because they are paying their creditor. So the longer they hold on to the building, the more that interest payment is required. And with that consideration, we had determined that an earlier closing date was good for them because it allowed them to clean off that line of credit. Fortunately, holding it the extra period of time to allow for longer notice for those tenants has created them to continue to need to pay that line of credit for the next 2 months until we can close, or the additional 2 months, sorry, until closing.
Okay, thank you. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to I guess I'll direct this to CAO Ver. Do we have an estimated cost on demolition and cleanup? Maybe Carl, I guess. Sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Caputo, it was in the range of $40,000 to $50,000, depending on a couple things we have to sort out with the landfill and.
Okay, and how did we land on this area? The traffic volume being too high for this area. Is there a traffic study or something that supports that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Caputo, it's not a traffic volume issue. It's an operations issue of the turning movements at the intersection. There's a straight through lane going west. There is no dedicated right turn lane. And that operationally, through speaking with our operations staff, that has been a real struggle for them to try to, refine or optimize that intersection. Routinely, we have witnessed traffic stacking up as far back as Cooper. I've been told 500 meters or so in that westbound traffic. There is speeding issues as we discuss at length all over the city, and this intersection is no different. Not to presuppose that we would do something like a roundabout, but if that was where we landed and that was justified, that would help with speed management on Second Line and Gooley Avenue.
Okay, My concern is that, you know, we're able to sort of find the funds to be able to do this, which is great. I realize that there's a bottleneck happening. Where I sort of get conflicted is that, you know, I asked for numbers about safety in school zones, and we've had this conversation at length, and we seem to be unable to allocate the funds to make these areas safer. And I think that as a council, I mean, we all have areas in our wards that we hear about speeding, we hear about, you know, places being unsafe. I think we really need to prioritize where we're going to spend this money. And I think that we need to look at making things safe for pedestrians before making things more convenient for drivers. I will speak just in my own ward, Ward 3, Pine and Pleasant, from the day I was elected, which we discussed this.
We gotta talk about the
I get it.
building specifically.
Okay, those are my concerns. I feel like if we are able to, you know, prioritize this to get the drivers through more quickly, I think as a council, we really need to focus some attention to safety for pedestrians as well. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
I'll note, Councilor Caputo, I think that was more of a comment than a question, but I'll note that we approved, I think it was $1 million to do automatic speed enforcement in school zones recently. So money is definitely being allocated to those priorities as well. And the new bollards that people see around town. So there is lots going on multiple files there, but were there other questions specific to the acquisition or demolition? Okay. Council, I don't want to get into too much about whether a roundabout's a good idea. So I saw some hands go up when Carl mentioned a roundabout. That would come back to us before it was ever approved. So we're really talking about the acquisition and or demolition of this building. Councillor Bruni was next, and then Scott, and then Gardy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question to Carl regarding the right-hand turn. Since the twin pad has been built, obviously more traffic has been going to the north of Gooley Avenue towards the twin pad. Would you agree?
Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Bruni, I would say that's fair. Yep. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head or even written down here, but there's two rinks there now. And during peak hours, there's certainly more traffic.
Exactly. I'm pleased with the extension for the present tenants. What I don't agree with is we're paying the extra funds for the owner to extend it by 2 months. He's still going to be collecting his rent from the present tenants. Am I correct? Be a question to the legal department,
If you know.
if you know.
It's probably a hypothetical one. I think it would depend on when the tenants do decide to leave. So if they find something sooner, they could leave. They may lose that rent. They are on a month-to-month lease, that much we know. So as much as the current owner is seeing them potentially vacated over the course between now and January, they may also leave. So it's a question and one that we can't really answer or put a number on what that would look like.
And as a common practice to provide the tenants an eviction notice before the property has been sold. I find that confusing in the sense that they received their eviction notice. They have approximately 50 days now to vacate the property or the building and move. But now with the extension, it's going to definitely help them. But is that a common practice before the sale is completed?
Through you, Mr. Councilor Bruni, I can't speak to every businessman's business practice. Our understanding is that the owners that we're dealing with did do their best to provide as much notice as possible. So essentially on the day that the offer purchase sale was extended to them and that they had signed it respectfully from their end is when they advised those, especially the staple tenants that have been there for a long period of time, to try and advise them with as much period as they could, and still weighing the idea that the longer they held on to the building, the longer there would be costs there for them.
And will the owner of the building be able to remove anything from the building as what he has been doing apparently with several emails that I received?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bruni, it is a condition that was negotiated in the agreement of purchase and sale that they can remove items. The idea is that they're to remove those items once the tenants vacate. So they, if it is being done now, it shouldn't be being done now. The idea is that it's done once the tenants leave, and certainly understanding certain items that they're looking to remove. There could be some concern if they remove them ahead of time from probably both our fire and building departments. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that if that's the case.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bruni. Councillor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the questions I had was just asked, but I do have another question. I just want to make sure that this is absolutely answered clearly. And I think it might be through you, Mr. Mayor, to CEO there. Regardless of the direction we go with this corner in the future, be it a right-hand turning lane, a roundabout, or nothing, if we do decide to turn it into something, does that decision have to come back to council, regardless of what decision it may be?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Scott, yes, the ultimate recommendation from engineering will be coming back to council for decision.
Great. I just want to make sure that that was explicitly clear to everyone, because I know I've had many people reach out about this. And just a quick comment, yeah, like this is one of the only major ways into the West End, and it goes from 2 lanes to 1 lane right there. So the traffic is backed up. I take it daily. I can tell you it's backed up to Cooper at least. You're there for several light cycles. It's very frustrating. And the visibility at that corner is poor for sure, especially with high school students leaving Cora and all that. It's a pretty dangerous corner. We've been pretty fortunate, but yeah, I look forward to whatever we get back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Gardy?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to start by thanking staff for their responsiveness to our concerns, well, to resident and tenant concerns that were brought forward. Ideally, they would have been provided with a little bit more time initially, but I understand negotiations are negotiations. And, though it's not great to have to pay another $5,000, I appreciate that that was part of this negotiation to allow for an extra couple of months for these tenants. I know the tenants in the building will be very appreciative of the extra time. And like Councillor Scott said, that it's terrible heading west on second line as you approach, and you're often there for a long, long time. So I think it'll go a long way to alleviating some concerns. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gardy. Other councillors? Seeing none, we can have a vote on the matter.
It's actually consent.
Oh, sorry, it's on consent, yes. So we are still on you, Councillor Caputo.
I think that's it for me.
Come back to you, Councillor Gardy.
I was just going to comment on 7.17, the active transportation plan, the transportation fund from Infrastructure Canada to assist with some upgrades to the hub trail and I just wanted to note, one, it's great news that we're able to continue to develop the hub trail. But specifically, we've been talking about, Councillor Scott and I for sure, about the extension into the West End. It's nice to see that there's a substantial amount of money of it being directed towards the West End connector. So the more we can get people to the West End, the better. So this is another way to do it. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gardy. Other councillors on 717? Okay, seeing none. Councillor Gardy, other items on consent?
Not that I can recall right now. Thank you.
Other councillors with items on consent? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk?
A motion by Councillors Gardy and Dufour resolved that all items listed under date September 9, 2024, agenda item 7, consent agenda, save and accept agenda items 7.5 and 7.16 be approved as recommended.
All in favor? That carries.
And that will take us to agenda item 8.6.1, property declared surplus at 149 Gore Street. It's separated because Councillor Vezo-Allen has declared a conflict. There's not a resolution under 8.6.1, although the bylaw does appear under agenda item 12, whether you wanted to ask questions at this point.
Council questions on this? Seeing none, we can move, I think, 9.1.
9.1, which is the Hydro One North Shore Link. It's a motion by Councillor Scott and Caputo. Whereas the City of Sault Ste. Marie recognizes the importance of reinforcing transmission lines to ensure reliable electricity supply, and whereas the North Shore Link project proposes to reinforce these lines, and whereas the project offers a green-colored route option that avoids major recreational trails through Hiawatha, and whereas the city values the preservation of recreational areas for its residents. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of Sault Ste. Marie expresses its appreciation for the North Shore Link project and exclusively supports the green option as presented by Hydro One.
Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do believe Councilor Caputo may want to modify this slightly since we've discussed earlier. It kind of got put together quickly to ensure that we were representing what constituents had reached out to the both of us about. It was a surprise to me. I guess I didn't look at it closely enough when I first was made aware of this, but one of the proposed routes goes directly through Hiawatha, and it's a place where we've, as a city, committed a lot of time and effort to encourage people to get out there and to bring tourism in. So obviously, that wouldn't be ideal. So that's why we put this motion forward. But I'm going to let Councillor Caputo speak because I believe she may want to make a modification to it that I would be willing to accept as well.
Thank you, Councillor Scott and Mayor Shoemaker. I am in total support of this motion. I think it's awesome. And we need to really put forward our support in preserving the investment that we've made at Hiawatha. I spoke to Mr. Anderson this morning, and the city's contribution so far to date has been about $2.5 million. So to see that be torn up would be absolutely a travesty. My only concern is that I just want to ensure, when I was reading through about this North Shore Link, the importance to First Nation communities was really highlighted. How important it is for certain reserves to be receiving more power. And so I just would like to acknowledge that since this motion came forward quite quickly, we didn't have a lot of time to consult with First Nations. And if there is any type of opposition or anything that they would like to add, we would be amenable to that.
We are, with the proposal as I read it, Councillor Caputo just stating our preference for the route, and there's, as I understand it, an EA process that would require Hydro One to consult with any neighboring First Nations jurisdictions.
Okay, if that is the consensus, then we can go ahead with that. And I will again just throw my support behind this. I know how much this means the cycling community, the cross-country community. I myself love to head out to Hiawatha for what Leo loves to call our nature walks. It's a beautiful property, and I hope that we can keep it that way and have this necessary power put through with Hydro One. So thank you.
Council, just on instead of calling it the green route, it appears to have a more formal name, which is Route 3C. So perhaps we can amend the resolution, Madam Clerk, to note that it is Route 3C that we support exclusively as opposed to the green route.
Of course.
Okay. So with that, if that's a friendly amendment from Councillor Scott and Caputo, okay, thank you. With that amendment, we can have a vote unless there's other questions or comments. We can have a vote on the matter. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. We will forward that to Hydro One right away.
To bylaws. And A motion by Councillors Gardy and Dufour resolved that all bylaws under item 12 of the agenda under date September 9, 2024, save and accept bylaws 2024-18, 2024-128, and 2024-129 be approved.
And 2024-123, I believe, Madam Clerk.
Just take that off the consent motion.
So on everything except the 4 bylaws that Madam Clerk accepted, all in favor? That carries.
Motion by Councillors Gardy and Dufour resolved that bylaw 2024-118 being a bylaw to declare the city-owned property being Civic 149 Gore Street a surplus to the city's needs and to authorize the disposition of the said property be passed in open council this 9th day of September 2024.
All in favor? Carries.
Councillor Kinnick,
He was in favor, yeah.
Councillor Gardy,
He was in favor.
Councillor Vesuellen.
He was in conflict.
Take us to 2024-123. Resolved that bylaw 2024-123 being a bylaw to declare the city-owned property described as Civic 60 London Street as surplus to the city's needs and to authorize the disposition of the said property to the District of Sault Ste. Marie Social Services Administration Board or as otherwise directed be passed in open council this 9th day of September 2020.
All in favor? Carries. Councillor Dufour in conflict.
And Councillor Gardy in the affirmative. Will bring us to 2024-128. Motion by Councillors Gardy and Dufour resolved that bylaw 2024-128 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of the agreement between the city and AECOM Canada for engineering services for the reconstruction of Peoples Road, Churchill Avenue to Third Line be passed in open council this 9th day of September 2024.
All in favor? Oh, yeah,
Will do.
thank you. Same with bylaw 123.
Councillor Dufour, I had separated 2024-129 because they were both referred to in that report. That's East Street. I don't know if you in fact have a conflict on that one. So motion by Councillors Gardy and Dufour resolved that bylaw 2024-129 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of the agreement between the city and Tulloch Engineering for the reconstruction of East Street, Bay Street to Wellington be passed in open council this 9th day of September 2024.
All in favor? Carries.
I have a motion by Councillors Gardy and Dufour resolved that this council move into closed session to discuss 1 item concerning the proposed acquisition of land, 3 items concerning the proposed disposition of land, and 1 item concerning a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to negotiations. Further be it resolved that should the said closed session be adjourned, the council may reconvene in closed session to continue to discuss the same without the need for a further authorizing resolution.
All in favor? That carries.
And I have a motion by Councillors Scott and Dufour that this council now adjourn.
All in favor? That carries.